So again, welcome. My name is Maya Van Rossum. I've had the honor of being the Delaware Riverkeeper for 30 years. And as a result of my work as the Delaware Riverkeeper and doing environmental activism and litigation, all that time, I've come to experience how our current system of laws here in the United States and in the state of Delaware fundamentally fails us. And as a result, I founded this new Green Amendment for the Generations movement.
Give me 1 second, Maya. I'm sorry. 1 second. Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. I'm also pleased to be joined by a number of other organizations that are helping to advance the Delaware Green Amendment here in the state of Delaware. Now, because of my experience with how this system of laws in Delaware fails us when it comes to environmental protection, I'm here today to suggest to you that we need a new path for environmental protection. And generally, when I say we need a new path, people wonder, Maya, how is it possible that we want or need a new path for environmental protection here in Delaware, here in the United States? After all, we have hundreds of thousands of environmental protection laws, of regulations, of agencies, of policies, of programs, all dedicated to the environment. So how is it possible there's space for something new? Well, the problem with this system of laws is that it's written so as to accept environmental pollution and degradation as a foregone conclusion, a necessary evil, something that must be allowed to happen. And so that really all these laws do is take us to the end of the decision-making process, where we are focused on how are we going to manage the pollution and the degradation we've accepted as somehow being necessary, a necessary part of modern life. And we think about what permits will we issue to legalize this pollution and degradation.
Yeah.
This system of laws and governance is not focused on prevention of pollution and degradation first. There are also a lot of gaps in the law. There are a lot of things that are not regulated until it's too late. Very often there is poor implementation of the laws that we do have on the books. So even those that can be successful fail because they're not properly implemented. Inevitably, at one point or another, somebody will get into a position of power that does not believe in the importance of environmental protection. And they will work to roll back the laws that we do have on the books. And racism is a built-in part of this system of environmental laws and governance here in Delaware, here in the United States. And so that consistently and continuously, communities of color, indigenous communities, immigrant and low-income communities are targeted for highly polluting industrial operations and environmentally degrading activities. And they do so with the permission of the laws and the government that we have on the books. So we can see the way the laws operate, they fail us when it comes to environmental protection. But we can also just look at the news headlines and see that across Delaware, under this system of laws, people are drinking contaminated water, breathing polluted air, being forced to live next to toxic sites, and environmental racism is unfortunately alive and well here in the state of Delaware. And so it's clear that something is missing. We need something more. And I am here to suggest to you that a big something missing is that we do not, here in Delaware or in the United States, we do not recognize and protect the rights of all people to clean water and clean air, a stable climate and healthy environments. And we do not raise up these environmental rights so they are given the same highest constitutional standing and protection as the other fundamental rights that we hold dear. Things like the right to free speech, freedom of religion, the right to peaceably assemble, due process rights, private property rights, even gun rights get more protection than the rights of people to the basics of life, like clean water and clean air. What we fail to do is recognize our environmental rights in the Bill of Rights section of our state and federal constitution, which is where we recognize and protect these other fundamental rights. But we all know in our hearts, in our minds, in our souls, that pure water, clean air, a stable climate, and healthy environments, these are truly fundamental human rights that are worthy of highest constitutional recognition and protection in the Bill of Rights section of our state and federal constitutions. And that we need to rise up together and demand and defend our environmental rights. And that the best way that I believe we can do that is to rise up together with what we call a green amendment movement, where we are seeking and securing the passage of constitutional green amendments that will truly respect and protect our environmental rights. Now, to get this highest constitutional legal standing and protection, not just any language will do. Key elements are essential. We need this language to be in the Bill of Rights. That is where we protect those other human, civil, and political rights that we hold dear. If we want environmental rights to get that same highest constitutional and legal protection, they must be placed in that same section of the Constitution. We need to be clear that we are talking about the rights of all people, and that we are talking about the life-sustaining essential elements of our environment, our water, our air, our climate, our ecosystems. We want to be clear that we are talking about protecting the essential qualities of the environment, like the natural qualities of the environment, the cultural qualities of a clean, safe, and healthy environment, the human health values of a clean, safe, and healthy environment, the scenic beauty of a clean, safe, and healthy environment, because these are all essential to the quality of life of those of us living here in the state of Delaware, to our health, to our safety, to our economy, and to our way of life. We want to be clear that we are protecting the environmental rights of not just present generations, but the future generations yet to come. And we want to be clear that all government officials, from the local level to the state level, to the governor's office, to the courtrooms, and all the regulatory agencies in between, that all government officials are constitutionally bound to protect environmental rights. We have somebody who needs to put themselves on mute, please. Now, right now, there are already three states that have a constitutional green amendment: Pennsylvania, Montana, and just last year in November, New York also added a green amendment to their state constitution. So 3 states already have this powerful protection. But in addition, we have about 12 more states that have green amendment proposals under consideration. And we have nearly 5 other states where communities are coming together, wanting to advance this important, powerful idea. Now, before we move on in our program, and also we get to your questions and answers, I just want to spend a moment to talk a little bit about how things will change if we get a green amendment here in Delaware. First off, environmental rights will be given highest constitutional standing and legal protection. We all know how powerfully the rights to free speech, freedom of religion, private property rights are protected here in Delaware and the United States because they are included in the Bill of Rights section of our state and federal constitutions. With a green amendment, environmental rights will now be given that same most powerful protection. Government will necessarily have to focus first on preventing environmental pollution and degradation, not simply accepting it as the necessary evil and offering permits that legalize it. It's no longer going to be good enough to just comply with the laws that are on the books and do precisely and exactly what they say. Now, government officials are also going to have to do an extra layer of review and make sure that they are protecting the rights of the people to a clean, safe, and healthy environment. Environmental justice will be incredibly strengthened because now all people, regardless of their race, their ethnicity, their socioeconomic status, all people will have the same constitutional right to a clean and healthy environment. And all government officials will be constitutionally bound to protect the environmental rights of all the people equitably. Environmental sacrifice zones will now be unconstitutional. We will now have generational protection, which means government officials are going to have to ensure they govern in a way that thinks long-term and ensures that the impacts of their actions and decisions will also protect the environment for the future generations. The Green Amendment will provide a powerful foundation for government officials that want to pass and put in place increased, better environmental protections here in the state of Delaware. But the Green Amendment will also strengthen how government interprets and applies the laws already on the books. Because they now will be interpreting and applying them with an eye towards using them to ensure they are protecting the environmental rights of all the people. It will reshape how they think about, interpret, and apply these existing laws, making them stronger. The Green Amendment will be an important gap filler. As we said, there are a lot of areas of environmental protection where there are no laws that apply, and as a result, bad things happen. PFAS is a man-made family of chemicals. It's used on stain-resistant carpeting and stain-resistant clothing, on non-stick cookware, frying pans, like Teflon. PFAS, in addition to being used in those ways, now proliferates throughout the environment in Delaware, across the nation, and around the world. There are many people in Delaware and in the United States drinking PFAS contaminated water. This is a toxic chemical that has serious health ramifications on those who have the misfortune of coming into contact with it, of ingesting it in their water and from their environment. PFAS got into the environment because of a failure, because of a gap in environmental protection laws. For many, many years, there were no regulations that prevented this chemical from being, or this family of chemicals from being used in a way that allowed it to get into the environment. And even after we knew how toxic and dangerous it was, the state and federal governments still failed to put in place protective regulations. If we had had a Green Amendment here in the state of Delaware, when PFAS started to be used in the state and science was showing how dangerous it was, the people could have turned to the Green Amendment and forced their government officials to put in place those protective regulations so that people's water and food and soils and bodies would not have ever become contaminated, and that they would have secured meaningful protections sooner. The goal of a Green Amendment is to get our government officials to make better decisions. And in case you don't recognize, those little kids are dressed like little Loraxes from the Dr. Seuss book. And that's Governor Wolf of Pennsylvania. Very cute. But our goal with a Green Amendment is to get better decisions from our government officials. The reality of our Green Amendment is when our government officials fail us and take actions and undertake decisions that do result in so much pollution and degradation and harm that we are in fact causing a violation of the environmental rights of the people, the Green Amendment gives them access to the courts so they can get the justice system on their side to make it right. Now, the power of a Green Amendment is not just in the law, in changing how the law works and our ability to enforce in the courts our environmental rights. The Green Amendment also empowers advocacy, activism, and environmental activists, because no longer will we be going to meetings with our government officials or to public hearings, hoping our government officials will do right when it comes to environmental protection. Now we will be going to those meetings expecting, demanding that our government officials protect our natural resources and protect our environmental rights, because we will not just be protecting the environment and the natural resources and the environmental rights we hold in our hearts and our minds, we will now also be defending the environmental rights that are protected by our state constitution. We will be rising up for a constitutional right to a clean, safe, and healthy environment. Delaware has become a true national leader in this Green Amendment movement. Many people are watching us, watching what we are doing here in the state and being inspired. We have some of the best Green Amendment language being put forth by Representative Wilson Anton and Senator Stephanie Hansen. In short, it's a lot of words, but every word means something. What these words say is that all people, regardless of race, ethnicity, or socioeconomic status, have the same constitutional right to a clean and healthy environment, and that all government officials at every level of government are constitutionally duty-bound to protect the natural resources of our state for present and future generations. So I want to thank you for joining us this evening. I look forward to answering your questions. But first, and I want to let you know there is a website, www.greenamendment.org, where you can learn more and get involved. And with that, let me stop my screen share. I am going to pass the podium to Kayito, and I'm not going to say your last name because I would prefer you to say it properly so that I can learn how to say it correctly. Thank you so much.
Muchas gracias. Gracias a ti. Gracias por todo lo que estás haciendo por la nación y por el mundo a través de esta enmienda y tu liderazgo. Amigos, soy Charito Calvachi Mateico y tengo el orgullo de haber servido por 14 años en la Comisión Hispana de Delaware y con ello continúo organizando ahora que ya no soy parte para dedicarme a toda mi comunidad latina. Déjenme compartir mis pensamientos. Comencemos por tener la mente clara, conscientes de la realidad amorosa, solidaria y justa que reivindicamos como nuestro derecho humano. Como Maya lo dijo, un derecho a la naturaleza es una acción maestra, pues ya lo dijo el Papa Francisco, somos naturaleza. Esta enmienda es un nuevo día en la historia de la humanidad y nos realinea con la concepción holística y precapitalista de la naturaleza que tienen los indígenas de todo el mundo. La ciencia del clima de hoy llama nuestra atención a la forma indígena de saber, al conocimiento indígena de la naturaleza como algo vital para nuestra supervivencia bajo la crisis climática en que nos encontramos. Y aquí mismo en Delaware hay indígenas, los descendientes de mayas y aztecas, como muchos de mis amigos indocumentados en Georgetown, que de niños en las montañas de Guatemala aprendieron las formas profundas de conocer la cultura y la naturaleza, que nos ofrecen nuevos y brillantes caminos para navegar la crisis conjunta del clima y la destrucción de la naturaleza. La enmienda verde rechaza poderosamente el racismo ambiental y más ampliamente la mentalidad del colonizador, la mentalidad del plantador, la mentalidad industrial que es obsoleta y contraproducente para la supervivencia humana en este mundo sobrecontaminado. La enmienda verde es un gran punto de inflexión histórica. Es a nivel material la finalización de la revolución a nivel político del siglo XVIII, que le llamamos la Ilustración, de la cual la Revolución Americana fue una parte clave, ¿verdad? Esta enmienda verde la completa, verdaderamente la integra y la hace parte de ahora la revolución americana que esperamos se realice para el bien de toda la humanidad y de los Estados Unidos principalmente. Hace que la ilustración también sea completa y que no tenga solo en cuenta a las personas, sino toda la vida, nuestro sistema de soporte vital, el planeta Tierra. La enmienda verde expone y comienza el duelo por la esclavitud de las personas de color y todas las demás especies de esta naturaleza viva. También empuja como una contrarrevolución la oscura y escabrosa revolución industrial que hoy provoca el cambio climático. Los científicos del clima nos dicen categóricamente que el paso central para detener la destrucción del clima es detener la destrucción de la naturaleza.
Disculpa, Charito, perdón, disculpa, puedes hablar un poquitico más despacio. Muchas gracias.
Gracias. Estoy hablando del sistema de la Tierra en general, del cual el clima es solo una parte. Es por eso que el excelente informe reciente de la Organización de las Naciones Unidas lo denominó sin rodeos con este título: Alto a la guerra contra la naturaleza. Esta enmienda verde detiene la guerra contra la naturaleza y la guerra contra las personas de color. Hasta ahora lo que hemos hecho es violencia masiva contra la naturaleza y la gente que pertenece a esa naturaleza. El establecimiento de los derechos de la naturaleza de la enmienda verde es la iniciativa más urgente, importante y progresista desde la abolición de la esclavización de las personas, poniendo fin a la esclavitud ¿de qué? De la naturaleza. Pone fin a lo que el famoso Francis Bacon denominó célebremente con estas palabras, entre paréntesis, torturar la naturaleza para que haga nuestra voluntad. Ese fue el nuevo credo de las revoluciones científicas e industriales de los siglos XVII y XVIII. ¿En contra de qué fue esa revolución? Fue una revolución industrial contra la naturaleza y todas sus especies, incluidos los humanos, esclavizados, que se identificaban con la naturaleza. Fue un genocidio colonial contra los pueblos indígenas y la naturaleza indígena. Todos sabemos la historia de nuestros pueblos y de los Estados Unidos. El cambio climático está forzando un giro, un vuelco en todo. Está forzando una revolución de la mente, completando la iluminación. Pero la plenitud de este cambio de rumbo es ferozmente disputada por los centros de poder, ¿verdad? No podía ser de otra manera. El cambio climático está obligando incluso a las instituciones que son el núcleo mismo, la base hegemónica fundamental del capitalismo global, como es el Tesoro de los Estados Unidos, el Banco Mundial y el Fondo Monetario Internacional, el Goldman Sachs, la corporación BlackRock y todas las instituciones financieras globales multimillonarias de Wall Street y Londres y Frankfurt a hacer un balance y recalcular, reformular su desinformación, engaño y destrucción global de la naturaleza y de todas las especies, incluyéndonos a nosotros, que dependemos de la naturaleza como nuestro único sistema de soporte vital. Todos ellos están luchando para mantener en su lugar la violencia del sobreconsumo industrial, la sobreproducción y el desperdicio en los centros élites del imperio. El informe climático del Grupo Intergubernamental de Expertos sobre el Cambio Climático, que lo dicen en inglés IPCC, por primera vez señala este consumo excesivo como responsable de un asombroso 50% de los gases de efecto invernadero que impulsan la crisis climática. Sí, me escucharon bien. El 10% de la élite de los Estados Unidos y los ultra ricos globales generan y son dueños, por ser dueños de múltiples hogares, islas privadas, yates, helicópteros privados, jets privados y ahora naves espaciales privadas de consumo excesivo y lujos sin restricciones, con una exhibición conspicua y posicionamiento social. Ellos son los que producen el 50% de estos gases. La crisis climática se enmarca más honestamente como la crisis climática de los ricos, ya que el 10% superior genera la mitad de todos los gases de invernadero que impulsan la crisis climática, impulsando la destrucción de las comunidades de color, impulsando la destrucción de lo más amado, la naturaleza. Por el contrario, amigos, este mismo grupo de científicos informa que la mitad más pobre de la humanidad solo puede darse el lujo de consumir muy poco, ¿verdad? Y generar tan pocos gases de invernadero que su consumo, de hecho, puede aumentarse de manera segura para satisfacer las necesidades básicas. Y el mundo, si eso ocurre, puede mantenerse fácilmente dentro de su presupuesto de descarburación. Pero la élite tiene una larga historia de 400 años de vivir bien haciendo precisamente esto. Es una historia muy antigua y hablo de 400 años en la presencia de aquí de la América, ¿verdad? Y de los Estados Unidos. Pero lo que le llaman en inglés de corporate greenwash, es decir, el lavado verde corporativo, no funcionará. Tenemos lo real y eso es la enmienda verde, que abre nuestra mente a grandes posibilidades. Esta es una herramienta clave para exponer oportunidades y caminos alternativos para la humanidad en los próximos años. Abre un nuevo día, una nueva forma de pensar. Esta enmienda verde es una gran contribución al nuevo acuerdo verde, que le llamamos Green New Deal, y abre una nueva conciencia y un nuevo pensamiento en términos de capital natural y del capital humano asociado con ese paradigma. Por ello, enriquece a Delaware. La enmienda verde restaura la profunda sabiduría de las sociedades tradicionales e indígenas en el vínculo con la naturaleza. La enmienda verde nos habla del momento en que vivimos. La revolución climática está forzando el derrocamiento de la mentalidad privilegiada racista y colonialista de la revolución industrial. Nuestra era es la era de la revolución de la naturaleza, la restauración de la naturaleza, y esto es la enmienda verde. Gracias por escucharme.
Oh my gosh, that was so powerful and beautiful. Thank you. So Michael, are you on the scene? Can you share your screen with our call to action?
Muy bien dicho.
Yes, I can. Just give me one moment.
So before we go to your questions, we just want to bring forth a call to action, an opportunity for you to get involved in a really meaningful way. Michael's going to put up a slide, but we'll put some links in the chat. So on May 17th, we are going to gather together at the state capitol, and we're going to have a rally, and we're going to encourage people who feel comfortable to go speak with their legislators about why they believe Delaware needs a green amendment, and that those legislators need to speak or vote in support of the rights of all people to clean water, clean air, a stable climate, and healthy environments. You can see on the screen and in the chat, we'll have a link where you can go sign up to participate. Let us know if you can show up to the rally. Let us know if you can speak to your legislators. Let us know if you can't show up, but you're interested in staying involved, because we want to keep you engaged. You don't have to know all the details of what it means to have a green amendment, what a constitutional right is or does in terms of the law and legal interpretation. All you need to know is that in your heart, you know that all the people deserve environmental rights, and that our elected officials in Delaware are duty bound to represent our interests when they vote, and that means they should vote for the Green Amendment. And if they ask questions you can't answer, we'll give you a response, which basically says, thanks for that good question. We'll have somebody get back to you. So you won't be left, with any sort of uncomfortable situation. So we hope that you will consider May 17th joining us in Dover. But if you can't, please go to the link, sign up, and stay connected. And also please write down our Delaware Green Amendment website, degreenamendment.org. It's just in the chat. And we will be posting information and updates and ways to get engaged all the time. So you'll be able to stay connected. Now with that, we're going to ask if you, we're going to see if anybody's put some questions in the chat already. If not, but if you have questions, please type them in the chat and we will read them and get your answers. Okay, Emiliano, there's a question in the chat from Anya. Can you interpret that? Great question. So in Pennsylvania, the amendment was passed in 1971. The problem is that people misused the amendment and tried to use it against things that didn't really have a meaningful environmental impact. And so very quickly, the Pennsylvania courts declared the amendment to just be a statement of policy. And under the law, a statement of policy is essentially advice. And government officials can take it or leave it. And in Pennsylvania, they left it. So for 42 years, there was great language in the Constitution, but because of the misuse of the amendment and the bad court interpretation, nothing changed.
Sorry, Maya, sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt. Interpreters, can we please switch? Thank you very much.
Okay,
Ready, thank you. Listos, gracias.
keep going. Okay, and so then in 2012, Pennsylvania passed a very pro-fracking, pro-industry law. Excruciatingly pro-fracking. And so while fracking for gas was already devastating Pennsylvania environments and communities, things were going to get dramatically worse with the passage and implementation of that law. I, as the Delaware Riverkeeper, and my organization, the Delaware Riverkeeper Network, challenged that law in court. And 7 municipalities joined us. And we argued, one of the things that we argued was that those really bad elements of the law would cause a violation of the Pennsylvania Green Amendment, and that 42 years of bad legal precedent should be overturned. And that is what happened. And in December of 2013, we defeated that pro-industry law because the court said it would result in violations of the Pennsylvania Green Amendment. And so at the same time, we breathed legal life into the Pennsylvania Amendment. Since 2013 until now, there have been a number of really powerful cases where the amendment has been used in the courts and in advocacy to secure drinking water protections, cleanup of a toxic site, prevent a development that would have devastated an old growth forest, force the voiding of permits that would have allowed the spreading of sewage sludge on agricultural lands right by where people lived. The misappropriation, prevented the misappropriation of environmental protection funds. In Montana, that Green Amendment was also in place since 1972. There too, in the early years, it wasn't well used. But then in 2000, it got used in a really powerful way to defeat a permit that had been given to an industrial gold mining operation that would have decimated a really important river in the state. 10 years later, it got used to defeat another permit for another industrial gold mining operation that would have had devastating consequences for natural ecosystems that were largely untouched by people, and where this permit was going to allow drilling and again, industrial gold mining. Because of the Montana Green Amendment, that permit got defeated. So those are a few examples. In New York, the Green Amendment only got passed in November of 2021. So we're still experiencing it. But the long and the short of it is, where we have green amendments, they've made a powerful difference to protect drinking water, to secure cleanup of toxic sites, to protect critical nature, to protect human health, and really to transform the way government operates when it comes to environmental protection. Okay, is there any other question? Question for, not sure, and we have a hard stop at 8 p.m. by the way, because our interpreters have to go then. So question for a participant. Oh, yes, Charito.
Sí. Bueno, me gustaría simplemente decir un momento, ¿cómo luciría los Estados Unidos si esto hubiera sido una ley desde un principio. Imagínense la cantidad vasta de montañas, de belleza natural con la que estaríamos rodeados. Sería el lugar más bello y los latinos vendrían no a trabajar en la industria avícola, sino que vendrían a producir productos orgánicos, porque ellos serían los transmisores del conocimiento de cómo hacer esta belleza de plantación, no monoplantación, sino múltiple, como en familia, como debe ser para evitar los fertilizantes que tanto les hacen daño a ellos mismos, los inmigrantes que vienen a trabajar en los campos. Y en vez de tener esas tremendas fábricas e industria de las polleras, como le llamamos, la industria avícola, tendríamos ranchitos por todo lado. ¿No les parece que eso sería bello? Esto es lo que nos está llevando el punto de esta legislación. Pero quiero, Maya, decirte que hay una pregunta de una amiga mía que dice que ella no sabe cuál es la diferencia entre la enmienda verde y lo que el representante Larry Lambert está promoviendo en la legislación que se llama Iniciativa de Justicia 40. Entonces, tal vez tú o tal vez Carrie podrían aclarar esto a mi amiga. Gracias.
I'm afraid I don't know what the Justice Authority Initiative is.
Sorry,
I will
what-
learn more.
I'm so sorry. There is, language monitoring. Just please, we have a
Bueno,
request
lo
for
que yo
interpreters
puedo
to go a little
decir
bit more slowly.
entonces
Thank you.
es que la enmienda es constitucional, ¿verdad? En cambio, esta ley de iniciativa de justicia 40 no es algún cambio constitucional, sino es tratar de hacer justamente lo que yo les decía. ¿Por qué no debe haber más pequeños ranchitos para que nuestros latinos vengan a trabajar ahí? Y muchas fuentes de ese sentido, cambiar el sistema de monocultura por algo bello del conocimiento y la sabiduría indígena, etcétera. Más o menos, de una manera muy resumida.
So again, I think that you actually said a lot of it and some of the most important elements is that what Representative Lambert is advancing is just a law. And so it is something that even if it passes can be rolled back. But again, and whereas the Constitution is above, right? And it's above the law and it guides all laws. But I do have to be honest, I'd have to really look at the initiative to be able to fairly answer the question. So I promise to do that. And maybe we can connect up after and I can give you a better answer. So we are coming up at the end of our time. I want to thank everybody so much for joining us. It was really powerful. Charito, thank you so much for your beautiful words. To our interpreters, thank you so much for helping us to spread this message with every member of our community. And for all those who joined us this evening, thank you. I hope that I see you on May 17th in Dover.
Gracias, gracias a todos mis amigos, a todos los que hacemos Delaware y tratamos de hacer un mundo mejor. Si estuviéramos en el tiempo de la esclavitud, nosotros seríamos los abolicionistas. Eso es lo que somos aquí.